The ocean is a deep, dark, terrifying place, and there's a reason that it's one of the most common fears in the world. Most people don't like the idea of there being miles of emptiness beneath them, with massive creatures swimming out of sight. People with submarines, however, feel quite a bit safer knowing that they aren't susceptible to the pressure and that very few things could damage their sub. Because of this, many submarines have taken footage of truly terrifying things and brought it back up to the surface to show the world. Here are 15 of the most scary things found by submarines. Number 15. Terrifying species of squid found? Squids have been widely demonized throughout plenty of media over time, often said to be terrifying beasts capable of dragging ships to their demise. Well, the big fin squid is one of the only species that really looks like it'd be capable of some of those demonic actions. These terrifying creatures look almost more spider-like than squid-like, with massive, thin tentacles spreading out beneath them. A baby one was very recently discovered by a submarine, which is quite a rare sight. Big fin squid are actually a very rare species and generally live too deep for humans to get any good pictures of them. Capturing one has been a real tribulation as well, as they're incredibly fast and get away from any attempts easily. The only studies that will ever be done on them will likely be from dead specimens found recently after their demise. Either way, these terrifying squid are truly nightmarish to look at, and it's probably a good thing that they stayed down in the deep ocean where they belong. Number 14. Man's best friend is a fish? People often think of the dog as man's best friend, but that isn't the case for Japanese diver Hiroyuki Arakawa. He's been entrusted for nearly 30 years to oversee one of Shinto religion's shrines called Torii, which is located beneath the surface of Japan's Tateyama Bay. Over the decades, he became familiar with the creatures that frequented those waters and, most importantly, became buddies with a friendly Asian sheepshead wrasse which he named Yoriko. The two of them went viral when a video of the man kissing the fish's head made its rounds across the internet. Recent scientific studies have shown that fish can recognize human faces, and that's a big deal. It means that not only does the fish know that he's a kind man, but also recognizes exactly who it is whenever he comes down to see him. Over the decades, their friendship has grown even stronger, and considering how long these fish normally live, it's very likely that it'll continue to blossom for several more years.
Before we go on, do like this video, smash that subscribe button and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face while you're sleeping.
It's time for today's subscriber pick. This strange photograph seems to showcase some sort of monster swimming in front of a submarine. Experts don't actually know who took this photo or where it originated from, but considering how few people have seen it, it may have been covered up or suppressed by some government entity somewhere in the world. The monster seems to have an oddly humanoid head, with eyes and a mouth that's almost smiling. The people within the submarine can't be seen moving in the photo, but it can only be assumed that they were probably freaking out. Seeing something like that through the glass must have been a truly terrifying experience. What do you think this creature is? Do you believe it's some sort of sea monster or perhaps something else? And who do you think took this picture? Remember to comment down below with the hashtag subscriberpic and let us know what you think. Now, on to the next topic. Number 13. Skeletons locked in cages underwater. Lake Mead, a popular lake near Las Vegas, has long been home to many summer days of fun and wonder for people looking to swim. More recently, however, as the waters have receded out and revealed sections of the lake bed, some chilling discoveries have been made. 5 skeletons locked within cages have been found, and coroners have no leads on how to identify them or who they were while they were alive. The 5 bodies were found throughout 3 months, and many believe that they could all be part of the Chicago mob or people killed by said mob. Several of the bodies were declared dead due to gunshots, and people are still trying to figure out how they ended up down here and why they aren't closer to Chicago. Most of the mob would drive people out into the desert, rather than drive such a long distance to drop the bodies into a lake instead. Either way, it's all very suspicious, and authorities are working on figuring out how these bodies ended up there. Number 12. Voisey Bernadette, a haunted shipwreck. The sinking of a ship is often a very tragic thing, but it doesn't have to be. St. Lucie County has focused on deploying artificial reefs for fish and other undersea life forms by sinking ships and planes that have been decommissioned, which allows for creatures to move in and use it as a home. Considering the degradation of the world's natural reefs, these artificial ones are quickly becoming a very important part of the undersea ecosystem. The Voisey Bernadette was acquired by St. Lucie County in order to aid in this mission of theirs, and after it was cleaned and inspected, it was deployed off of the coast in roughly 100 feet of water to act as an artificial reef. Divers have since gone down to those depths, and the overall atmosphere is quite chilling. There are haunted noises and strange apparitions, and many have reported terrifying things that are too worrying for them to elaborate on. Hopefully, the undersea creatures living there don't mind a little haunting. Number 11. Diver whose body suddenly inflated. Many of you may be familiar with the bends, which is a sickness that divers experience when they surface too quickly. This usually results in headaches and slight pains throughout the body, but more severe cases have led to ballooning of different sections of the body. For one man named Alejandro Ramos Martinez, however, his case was the most severe ever observed. He says that he was down quite deep in the ocean when a boat traveled above him, severing his oxygen line and making him realize that he needed to resurface quickly. As he did, however, his body bloated beyond its normal size, and all of the normal treatments of the bends haven't been able to help him whatsoever. He'll likely be going in for several rounds of reconstructive and cosmetic surgery in the coming months. Hopefully, the surgeons will be able to assist in removing most of the damaged tissue, despite the unusual circumstances that caused it to arise. Number 10. Headless chicken monster found. The headless chicken sea monster is an incredibly strange creature, resembling its namesake incredibly well. It can often be seen drifting throughout oceans in incredible depths, farther down than humans will ever reasonably be able to go without a submarine. It has webbed, fin-like structures near the front and back of its body to swim up to the surface when needed. Though we're not exactly sure why they return to the surface. It's possible they need oxygen like whales, but it's unknown so far. The creature was eventually determined to be a sort of floating sea cucumber, which baffled many people considering how different it looks from most other species. Most sea cucumbers do not have such odd extremities, merely resembling their namesake vegetable. They're also found all across the globe, making their odd appearance even more of a shock. Most of their life is spent in the region of the ocean known as the water column, though they often touch down on the seafloor when it's time to eat. Number 9. This airplane was sunk on purpose? As mentioned earlier on in the video, sometimes ships and airplanes are sunk in order to help the native wildlife by providing them with a new home. That was the case in Jordan back in 2017 when officials sank a Lockheed C-130 Hercules military plane. It was decommissioned earlier that year, and it was large enough to consider sinking, unlike most types of military plane. Before sinking it, they removed all of the fuel, paint, and other such hazardous materials from the aircraft before dropping it off around 1,000 feet from shore. It now sits at around 50 feet below the surface, making it easily accessible to recreational divers and snorkelers who want to see the interesting activity of an artificial reef. Several people have gone by and noted that it's quite eerie seeing a plane that is supposed to be there, considering most wreckages are often reported and brought up from the sea. This one, however, has made its home amongst the waves. Number 8. Whale carcass being devoured by sea creatures. Whales are absolutely massive creatures, often weighing many thousands of pounds while being supported by the water of the ocean. They are, however, mammals, which means that they often need to surface in order to breathe. When they become too old or too weak to surface for air, however, they eventually pass away and fall to the floor of the ocean. This is a sad time, of course, but it's also incredibly beneficial to the local ecosystems. Whales, as you're aware, are composed of a lot of meat and other biological materials. These carcasses, when located deep enough, can create complex biological ecosystems, feeding deep-sea organisms for decades and even up to a century depending on how large the whale was while alive. All sorts of animals have been seen at whale falls, including new species that are never seen anywhere else in the world. They are incredible spots of biological diversity, showcasing what kinds of animals show up when such easy access to food is available. Number 7. La Palma Haunted Crosses. Within the Canary Islands, specifically the island La Palma, there are many rumors surrounding the crosses found just beneath the waves off of the shore. The stories go back about 400 years, where the Canary Islands had been under Spanish control for over a century. They were an incredibly valuable trading colony for them. Unfortunately for the Spanish, though, this made them a very attractive target for pirates. However, this didn't deter Portuguese missionary Inácio de Azevedo and his 39 Jesuit companions from their travel, as they were on a mission from their god. Luck was not on their side, however, and they were boarded by a group of French pirates led by Jacques de Sore, who wanted the ship and cargo for himself. He took the ship, but didn't care for the men aboard it. He threw them to the sea, where they drowned painfully. In 1742, the Pope declared these men martyrs, and 40 crosses were sunk for them where the event had happened. They hoped to give these men a little peace of mind in the afterlife, despite their tragic end. Number 6. Apollo 11 engines rediscovered in ocean. The Apollo 11 space mission was perhaps the most important in all of human history, as it was the first to showcase that humans could really venture off of our Earth and land on foreign bodies. It's the mission in which Neil Armstrong first walked upon the moon, and the one that showcased to the rest of humanity that space travel was not some far-off dream. It was a reality. The Apollo 11 engines were ejected from the Saturn V rocket as the craft was shot into orbit, and they were later discovered to have fallen to 14,000 feet below the ocean surface off of the coast of Florida. They would have been incredibly expensive to retrieve, and were therefore left at the bottom of the ocean. That was until Jeff Bezos entered the space and paid entirely for them to be recovered and brought up to the surface. The engines were then donated to a space museum, where they are now on display for the thousands of people each year who want to see how space travel began. Number 5. Whirlpools dragging divers down to their deaths. Whirlpools are bodies of rotating water produced by opposing currents in a large body of water, whether that's a lake, the ocean, or even a large river. They are incredibly dangerous. Despite the depiction of them in most pieces of modern media, they often can't be observed from the surface of the water, and are instead invisible deadly forces that will immediately drag someone down beneath the water. This video showcases swimmers fighting for their lives to get out of a whirlpool, because if they're taken beneath the surface, there's very little chance they'll be able to break free. These whirlpools are often caused by the tides, with many stories of ships being sucked down in maelstroms. It's unknown exactly how many ships have actually been sunk by these terrifying forces of nature, but it's clear that anybody who knows what they are should stay away at all costs. Number 4. Sarcastic fringehead, the world's most territorial fish. The sarcastic fringehead is a small but incredibly hardy saltwater fish that has a large mouth and very aggressive territorial behavior. When two fringeheads have a territorial battle, they press their distended mouths against each other as if they were kissing. This allows them to wrestle and eventually determine which is the bigger and stronger fish, which establishes dominance between the two. They can grow up to a foot in length and are mostly scaleless with great pectoral fins and reduced pelvic fins. These fish don't necessarily swim by moving their fins, but instead move in very quick, short bursts, much like a dart. They're usually brown in color and like to hide inside of shells or crevices. Some have even been known to live within man-made objects, like soda cans or discarded buckets and barrels. The female will lay eggs within their burrow, and then the male will stay behind to guard them. During spawning season, they are one of the most prolific eaters of squid eggs, which makes them a sort of pseudo-predator, because they can't do much to full-sized squids. Number 3. Shark older than America? America, in the grand scheme of things, is a fairly new country. It was established in 1776, which makes it just under 250 years old. Interestingly enough, the Greenland shark's average lifespan is about 250 years old. But that's definitely not the oldest specimen of the strange shark ever discovered. Instead, one female was recorded to be over 400 years old, making it the oldest living vertebrate on Earth. The Greenland shark is also known as the Gurry shark or the gray shark, and they mostly live within the North Atlantic Ocean and the Arctic Ocean. It has the largest known lifespan of all vertebrate species and is among the largest extant species of shark. It's a generalist feeder, meaning it consumes pretty much whatever it can find in its habitat. It lives at great depths, which generally leads to a high concentration of a chemical known as trimethylene N-oxide within its tissue. This chemical is incredibly toxic to humans, meaning that eating it in its raw form would be a very bad idea. In Iceland, however, the meat is treated to reduce toxin levels and is then served as a delicacy known as ketsir. There has never been a reported attack from a Greenland shark on a human being, mostly because they live so deep that the two never interact. Number 2. Shipwreck with thousand-year-old computer. The Roman civilization was an incredibly advanced society, both in terms of technology and social advancement, and their trade networks were some of the most sophisticated in the world. It makes sense then that several of their ships over the centuries would have been lost at sea for one reason or another. One of these wrecks, known as the Antikythera wreck, was discovered in the 1900s and dated back to the 1st century BC. It yielded numerous statues, coins, and other artifacts that date back to the 4th century BC, as well as the severely corroded remnants of a device that many regard as the world's oldest known analog computer. The device has been dubbed the Antikythera mechanism, and although it's not exactly known what it was for, believed that it was capable of performing calculations and other important tasks reminiscent of a computer. The ancient artifacts found aboard the wreck were all taken up to the surface and are now on permanent display at the National Archaeological Museum of Athens. Number 1. Spiders that live underwater? Most people generally are not fans of spiders, and that's a perfectly reasonable opinion to have. You may have thought that you were safe from them while swimming at a beach or within the ocean waves, but you'd be wrong. There's actually a whole different subset of spiders that live underwater, aptly known as sea spiders, and they are common, with over 1,300 different species of them existing all across the world. Sea spiders have very long legs in contrast to a very small body size, and several of these spiders are so small that they spend most of their lives floating in the waves, unable to land unless they collide with something. Very little is known about the way they reproduce, though it is known that they have larvae which generally lives on clams and mollusks before turning fully into their full spider form. These critters live all over the world, from the warm Mediterranean waters all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. They are mostly common in shallow waters and on beaches, but have been observed deeper than a mile underwater. They often camouflage beneath rocks and amidst moss, so next time a floating bit of seaweed touches you while you're swimming, just be a bit more careful about picking it up. Which of these things do you think are the scariest? Do you think scientists will ever be able to explain what's going on in the depths of the ocean? Tell us in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps us understand what kind of content you enjoy, and that way we can tell what kind of topics you're looking for next. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one.